Good morning. This is Connor from 500 Edge, where we trade SPX 0DTE options. If you want to join the team, link in the description. In this video, I'm going to recap the previous session and break down what matters today ahead of the opening bell. On Wednesday, we took a total of 2 trades, both winners, 7500 and 7510 long put for a 71% and 60% return, bringing our total portfolio return to 24.82%, risking no more than 1% per trade. And this is 25% nearly with only 12 days of trading, taking a total of 35 trades, 26 winners, 9 losers, for a win rate of 74%. This session was quiet and inside day, trading between the previous session's high and low, with SPX closing flat at 75.20 amid neutral market conditions. Technology underperformed, closing down 0.4%, semis down 1.1%, and financials, which is the second largest sector by market cap weighting, down 0.8%. So when we see weakness in these areas of the market, it generally caps upside. However, we did see rotation, most notably into consumer discretionary, up 1.8%, and communications up 0.6%. In terms of our trades, we took a long put right at the open off 75.30 and another long put at about 75.20-ish, just playing the range. But I think what was notable here is that bears did get that lower high, so putting in a high that is lower than the previous session, which is the first indication of a trend change. Now, we did not get confirmation via the breakdown below 7,500, but there was really no indications for that sort of move yesterday. 7,500 remained a very big support zone, confluence zone, following through from the previous session. So above 7,500, dealer flow is really supportive. We had the previous low in here at 75.02, and then the SPY flip at 75.03 on the upside, 75.30 and 75.39, which was the previous session's high. And that's what constitutes an inside day, trading between that high and low. That is a signal of consolidation, digestion, and that's most certainly what we saw here heading into PCE that is due out this morning. For today, early pre-market, SPY is down 0.1%, Q's down 0.3%, VIX up 2.64%, and WTI crude oil up 1.7% as attacks resume between US and Iran. Now, we do have PCE due out at 8:30. That is the Fed's preferred inflation metric. It is a high impact event, so who knows where we'll open, but levels are largely unchanged. We have 75.25, 75.30 on the upside. Previous session's high about 75.31. So a break implies resumption of this trend with resistance at 75.50. And then we have the SPY call wall at about 75.66 SPX equivalent. On the downside, major transitional zone remains around 7,500. So 7,500 big gamma level. That's also the previous session's low. And then we have the SPX flip at 74.95, SPY flip at 74.96. So a big 5-point confluence zone, which is also entry into a downside gap, fill 74.73. And then we have another gap here on the downside, 74.63 to 74.45. And there's always potential if we fill these gaps or when we fill these gaps. These gaps are most likely to get filled at some point. Potential for those gap fill reversals. That's a setup I generally like to look for if conditions are supportive. And then below that, we have 74.35, 74.30, followed by the big 7400 handle, which was the transition the week prior. Transitioning over to our dashboard, total gamma exposure for the SPX remains positive, 1.17 billion notional, trading in close proximity to our transitional zone of 7,500, 74.95. Above, all strikes are positive, that is supportive for the market price. Below, most strikes are negative, that is destabilizing for the market price. So if we do break that transitional zone, dealer flows are going to diminish, and we would start to anticipate volatility to pick up. In regards to the implied move today, 0.8%. That is an implied high of 75.80 and an implied low of 74.60. Going in to PCE, which is due out at 8:30. Additionally, we have GDP growth, second estimate, and personal income and spending all high impact releases. And then, of course, geopolitical headlines. So keep that news feed up and remain vigilant. If you want real-time SPX 0DTE trade alerts, plus the full framework to trade the market with Edge, join the team at 500edge.com.